pun intended.
But enough about that. What were you saying?
That's definitely coming back. I guarantee that is coming back. That's my prediction here. Welcome back to Why Is That Funny? Today I wanted to look at Make Some Noise by Dropout and check out one of the dynamics between two regular players that are on there a lot, Zach Oyama and Brennan Mulligan. I think we're going to have a lot to learn from them, so let's get into it.
An astronaut trying to cover up to NASA that they really fucked up. Colonel Smith, how's it looking out there? You seeing that bright blue marble?
Houston, we are seeing that bright blue marble, and it is looking clear.
Airlock is secure. You are go for entry to the ISS on recovery
Copy
mission.
that, Houston. 1 second.
Okay, before they get into what looks like is about to be the interesting stuff, I'm already smiling. Nothing funny has happened yet, but the reason I'm smiling is the space work and object work that they're doing. So unlike Very Important People, which we've done a couple of episodes on, check them out if you haven't already, in that show, they're wearing costumes, they're on a set, they've got props, everything that they're improvising around is physically real. The 99% of improv that you see on stage, wherever, is gonna be fully improvised. Like you might have 2 chairs, but that's about it. So you have to do everything you can to create a real world. And for these two of them, they're not even in the same place in their scene. So they're doing just little things, and it can be as simple as one of them is typing on the computer and looking at the screens, and one of them is floating around.
Looking clear.
Airlock is secure. You are go for entry to the ISS.
And it's making it real. It's giving us a grounding base so that there's contrast ready when we start doing weird stuff. If you just dive in at 10 out of 10, everything's crazy, then nothing's actually going to be funny. You need a little bit of contrast. You need a little bit of normalcy so that when your funny idea comes in, it's actually funny.
On recovery
Copy
mission.
that, Houston. 1 second. We got some interference. Muting myself. Has anyone seen my box, my juice box?
Just about Zach's muting myself. A lot of that physical object work, space work, where you're miming things. If something needs to be directly interacted with by your partner, you kind of need to make it clear what it is. So we try and stay away from things like, you know, one of the cardinal sins of improv is handing someone a gift and being like, here's your gift, open it, and waiting for them to like create what's in it. You kind of want to tell them what's in it. And you want to work it into like what makes sense in the scene when you can, but sometimes there's no other, like if his character doesn't want to make it clear that he's muting himself, but Zach needs for Brennan to know that he's muting himself, he's going to just go, muting myself. Now, I want to talk about how this show is set up. So this is long form improv. This is improv where 2 players or more, or 1, I guess, and any number of players, okay, are gonna figure out what's funny about a scene together. But the twist here is we're given a prompt, they're calling it, up front, that kind of gives you a kickstart into the scene. It's still not short form improv because the direction that they go with that could be any direction. This one says an astronaut trying to cover up to NASA that they really fucked up. That's kind of emotionally specific, but it could be that in itself is the rhythm that gets played, like going back and forth with covering up. It could be something else totally. That's what makes this long form improv. So now that we know that we're building up some normalcy, building up some realism, and we've got our direction that we're going to go into, let's see what happens.
An astronaut trying to cover up to NASA that they really fucked up. Colonel Smith, how's it looking out there? You seeing that bright blue marble?
Houston, we are seeing that bright blue marble, and it is looking clear.
Airlock is secure. You are go for entry to the ISS on recovery
Copy
mission.
that, Houston. 1 second. We got some interference. Muting myself. Has anyone seen my box, my juice box?
We're getting a moisture confirmation in some of the air filtration systems.
So they have these juice boxes that I was told that we were allowed to bring on. a lot of them got out, and a lot of them are floating around now. And
Okay, a lot of cool stuff happened there. I want to start with something that you would almost blink and you would miss it, that Brennan did.
you want to see my box, my juice box?
Zach has said that, and Brennan says,
We're getting a moisture confirmation in some of the air filtration systems.
So
okay, so his character, Zach wasn't speaking to Brennan's character, and if you're just reacting to what's said to you, if you're expecting that that's how your improv is going to take shape, then you might not have said anything. But Brennan has done a really useful thing for Zach, which is said in our kind of like hidden layer of improv communication that we have between players. I hear what you're doing. You've mentioned the juice box. That's an unusual thing, so it's probably pretty intentional that you want me to play with that. You want us to make something out of that. So I'm going to make it clear in a way that totally makes sense in character that I've heard you. And I'm going to mention moisture confirmation.
So they have these juice boxes that I was told that we were allowed to bring on.
And we have Zach's I was told, which gets to the character kind of perspective. So if NASA astronaut trying to cover up their mess up is the premise, then I think the game that is likely to be played here is defensive. I don't know that that's going to be cover up necessarily. That's such a clear perspective that Zach is implying. Like, I was told, like, who says that? You only say that up front if you already know that you're in the wrong. And so you're just going to push, no, we're going to fight about this.
They have these juice boxes that I was told that we were allowed to bring on. And a lot of them got out, and a lot of them are floating around now. And I pre-put all the straws in.
You pre-put all of the straws?
It's my least favorite part of juice boxes. And so I do it ahead of time so I can reward myself later for the good NASA job I did.
Colonel,
He's adding specifics. He kept going. Did you notice that? There was a little bit of a lull. When he was first talked about the juice boxes, there was a little gap, and then he said, I pre-put all the straws in.
A lot of them got out, and a lot of them are floating around now. And I pre-put all the straws in.
you pre-put all of the straws?
It's my least
He's kind of keeping going until there's something new that's remarkable that comes out. And Brennan is framing that perfectly. He's saying, you pre-put, literally just replying. That's something that I think Brennan does quite well, from what I've seen of him, is literally just repeating what the last person said when it's crazy, so that the audience has an opportunity to notice that it was crazy. You kind of like subliminally notice it as an audience. If you've seen my previous episodes, you fill up that balloon, like creating pressure by adding first grounded stuff and then weird stuff. And we notice subliminally as an audience, pre-put all the straws in, that's crazy. So that extends it even further. And then Brennan saying, you pre-put all the straws in, bang, makes it explode and gives a release in the form of laughter.
favorite part of juice boxes. And so I do it ahead of time so I can reward myself later for the good NASA job I did.
And although that's bizarre what Zach just said, I pre-put the straws so I can reward myself for the good NASA job I did. What he's actually doing there is oddly grounding. When you play what we call game of the scene, which is what we're doing here, kind of swell upwards into comedy territory, and then a little lull, and then back up on a pattern of the same thing that the previous swell was from. You can only get back to that next laugh if you return to grounding. And that's a pretty cool way that Zach has done that, I think, because on its own, that's kind of a funny and bizarre thing to say. I do it so I can reward myself for the good NASA job I did. But because it is giving specifics about his character and why it makes sense to him, it is taking him away from that, like, I'm mentally in a total break from reality sort of place, and taking it back to like a even if it doesn't make sense to the rest of the population, it makes sense to me. And so we're not playing crazy stuff again.
My least favorite part of juice boxes. And so I do it ahead of time so I can reward myself later for the good NASA job I did.
Colonel Smith, who told you you could bring pre-opened juice boxes?
We get one personal item.
No, you don't. Is it good to give a hard no in an improv scene? Is that what you're supposed to do? To say
Can't
no,
do
you
that.
are not, you can't do that? Josh.
Funny. Okay. Is it good to give a hard no? That's so funny. Especially that in the comments, well, in the video of the last video I did, but in the comments, there's this conversation ongoing about no, but, yes, and I think this is an example that people might point to when they're saying like, oh yeah, sometimes yes and isn't the right way to go. Sometimes you do no, but. Yes and being like you saying as an improviser, yes, the last thing that you just said is real and I'm going to build on it. And no, but supposedly being this thing where you say, no, I'm going to shut down the idea that you had and I'm going to give an offer of a different idea that I think might be more playable. This is kind of neither. This is definitely not a no, but. It's possibly not a yes. Well, no, look, hey, it is a type of yes and that Brennan did. Let's talk again. What did they do there?
Bring pre-opened juice boxes.
We get one personal item.
No, you don't.
Zach said we get one personal item. Brennan said, no, you don't. That's a yes and, okay, people? Zach said we get one personal item. Brennan said, okay, Zach, I hear you. Your character is adamant you get one personal item. And I'm going to add the detail into this world that we've created that is definitely not okay. That's a yes and. It's not a no but more importantly, what it is a reaction to a game move. Zach has got this thing of like defensiveness, preemptive defensiveness about juice boxes, and Brennan is going to respond to that by literally just responding emotionally and logically. When Brennan said at the end, I think that's a little bit of meta commentary. Like, is that okay to give a hard no? That wasn't what we call a hard no. I think he's joking around when he says that. What I do think could have been done more in this scene, if it weren't this duo that know each other very well, is an addition of more details on Brennan's part. That scene was going great and didn't need it, and I think Brennan and Zach probably have that trust amongst one another. But generally, again, yes and is acknowledging what the last person did and adding details on top so that there's more content for the players, for both players to pull on. A lot of that scene was just Brennan kind of confirming and repeating back what Zach did. The emotional responses were hilarious. Zach was coming out with lots of other ideas, and that's why it wasn't needed. Again, Zach kept going until he added the I pre-put all the straws in, for example. Generally, though, if you're not operating at that like peak level and where you both work together a lot, on both sides, you want to try and avoid asking questions without giving some hint at what the answer is, trying to avoid like just repeating back without adding something on top, giving some kind of justification. All of that kind of thing is something that might be useful to you if you were getting into improv yourself. Let's move on. So different episode.
Yeah.
And Brennan. An inappropriate time to say shut up.
You, Owen Smith, the child of destiny.
Something happened here that is extremely common when you're doing premise type improv, where you basically have in long form improv, you've got premise and organic. In organic, both people have absolutely zero clue from the very start what they're going to create together. So immediately you can start making choices about your character. That's still a good idea to do. And by choices, I mean like, how do I move? You know, what kind of room am I in? What am I holding a prop? Whatever. When you're doing premise improv, where we've got a prompt here from Sam saying an inappropriate time to say shut up, sorry. And B, clearly Brennan, because he comes in with quite a big thing that he's doing, he clearly has an idea for what that becomes. Like, what the first couple lines of that are, like a framing, a setting for that scene, a reason why it might be funny. And when you're the receiving person in that scene, when you're in Zach's position, so he's not initiating, as we call it, in Zach's position, take a look at his face here.
Hey, shut up.
Zach's face. So he's watching. He's trying to figure out what's going on here. Brennan is doing like just noises and that could be anything. Okay. And Brennan, I saw Zach start to bring in an emotional response as soon as Brennan starts reaching forward or stepping forward. You see that? So as early as possible in that journey, you want to start bringing in your choices about your character, but give some opportunity first for the initiator to indicate to you how it might be appropriate. Now, Brennan still didn't make it clear Zach should be scared, but it was bold and big, so reasonable responses could be like confusion, fear, suspicion, curiosity, that kind of thing. And Zach's gone with fear.
Owen Smith, the child of destiny, I have come here because our world is dying. They say that there is a boy from the Earth realm given the power of light magic, that he might come and save our world from the shadow realm. Have I now found the savior of our people here in this place? I bestow upon you.
You know, I think Zach is having a look of like, when do I say shut up?
The savior of our people.
Because Brennan's gone and gone.
In this place.
And I think he's kind of missed it.
Upon you these three gifts. The sword of courage.
Cool.
The shield of truth.
Awesome.
Okay, and he's made a more specific character choice as a result of that. I think he's had a little moment here, and you can see the difference between what he's totally neutral, and then he's having his little like moment, and now his face changes, and now he's this
Cool.
character.
Shield of truth.
Awesome.
And the crystal of wisdom.
Oh. Can I tell you something?
Sure.
I always knew this would happen to me. I always knew that someone from a different dimension would come to me and tell me that I was the chosen one, because I always felt it. And I always felt like everybody knew that.
I think I see what's going on here. But before we get to that, Zach is doing a great example of what I was talking about with the previous clip. A common coaching note that you'll hear is try to always know. Avoid asking questions, like not literally avoid asking questions, but avoid asking questions in such a way that it forces your scene partner to create new information. So Zach asked the question, can I tell you something? But it was so that he could say, I always knew that this was going to happen to me. And he's starting to like layer on thick his character perspective. We've got Brennan's. Brennan's is like, I need someone to come and save my world. And I'm like this mystical, I don't know, intergalactic, interdimensional, finding the chosen person, Morpheus kind of guy. And Zach is like a self-important nerd.
Oh.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
I always knew this would happen to me. I always knew that someone from a different dimension would come to me and tell me that I was the chosen one, because I always felt it. And I always felt like everybody knew that
I think he's
was
flipping it.
different, and they always treated me in such a way that I don't
He's
know, maybe
flipping
they
it.
didn't like me, but I knew it was for a good reason, not just because I'm annoying or whatever.
Give that back. I'm taking the crystal back.
I think I laughed over it. I'm so sorry.
That I don't know, maybe they didn't like me, but I knew it was for a good reason, not just because I'm annoying or whatever.
Shut up. Give that back. I'm taking the crystal back. It's actually not. It's not really like a prophecy thing. It's sort of like
He flipped it. I think he missed his chance and he flipped it. So Brennan monologued, and so Zach went, all right, I'll monologue as well. Timing is a big part of comedy, and sometimes that is something that you just have to feel. And you know what? Something that requires a lot of physical timing is on stage when we edit a scene, which usually you'll do. By that I mean finishing, like something has just hit a comedic high or a dramatic high, and someone normally will run across the front of the stage to signify that's that over. We're going to do something totally different now. Often the turn of phrase goes, if you feel like you should have swept it, if you're wondering if you should have, then the moment's already gone. And that can be a little bit of a more challenging thing to build up a sense for. And comedic timing just takes experience. And, even when you're at your highest peak, it's not always perfect. Like, improv is the most imperfect thing in the world. That's a huge part of what makes it beautiful. But it's what you do with that counts. And if you turn that into an opportunity to have a bunch of fun, like he's done there, then beautiful. So he said, okay, we're going to start that process again by giving you the opportunity to do the comedic shut up, cut off time. I think Brennan was angling for Zach to say shut up, right? That's what happened there. So Zach said, why don't you have a go?
back.
Reason, not in such a way that I don't know, maybe they didn't like me, but I knew it was for a good reason, not just because I'm annoying or whatever.
Shut up.
That's so understated as well. Because of the prompt, we know that it's coming, that it's a pivot point in that scene. So Brennan's able to just totally throw it away. And honestly, not mugging, not being huge, not being like, shut up, whatever. Being really understated about things is such a funny way to deliver something pivotal.
Give that back. I'm taking the crystal back. It's actually not. It's not really like a prophecy thing. It's sort of like I actually make the call. I can tell. I know I can tell you suck. So give me the sword.
And he did it again, threw it away. I can tell you
Give
something.
me that.
Did he do it two more times?
Prophecy thing. It's sort of like I actually make the call. I can tell. I know I can tell you suck. So give me the sword. Yeah, I can tell you suck. So give me that. Yeah. Oh, I sort of took a chance, and I was like, oh, this was like a little outside.
I thought
Brennan also changed character as well. That's so funny to go from this intense kind of guy to like backtracking. That heightens again, comedy is all about contrast. So if you've created this grounding where the base reality is that this is this super kind of imposing, impressive, mysterious guy, and then to backtrack and say, I don't want you actually, he goes total conversational and normal. That is such a big contrast that it makes the otherwise fairly mundane things that he's saying even funnier. And then it makes it even funnier again when he vaporizes them or whatever.
So give me that. Yeah. Oh, I sort of took a chance, and I was like, oh, this was like a little outside.
I thought for sure. And then it was the reversal. It truly was just a situation of, I think I missed my window. And so, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But then it was the perfect tee up. God, how do we thematically just...
Classic. Yeah, it happens. But everything in improv is an opportunity. I always say there are no wrong moves. There are definitely moves that make things easier or harder to play with and respond to, but absolutely anything. If you're getting into improv and you find yourself stuck on the sidelines, afraid to make this idea that you have come to life or whatever, just know that even if it falls flat, there is the only reason it stays flat is if people remain scared to touch it. You can turn anything. You can turn the biggest pile of crap, said in a totally loving way, into comedy genius. It's just about keeping going. That's all it takes.
One another's stomachs for the
One last scene.
which brings us back to Zach
Okay.
and Brennan.
I was gonna say.
A noble knight's sworn oath starts to concern their liege lord.
Okay, initiation. Zach is doing the initiation. So Brennan is going to wait for a second, just a second, to get a sense of what his character should be. But because we have that prompt, we probably are pretty clear that Brennan is the liege lord based on how Zach is kneeling down.
My lord, I've journeyed far.
Sorry, that just really caught me off guard. We're going off the rails. Let's keep going.
Lord.
My lord, I've journeyed far to pledge my fealty to you. I have slain many a foul beast, many a geese running through the fields of Inishire. The geese were absolutely out of control. Many fell to my blade. They have those long, slender necks, pretty easy to take out. I didn't eat any of them.
Okay. This is great confirmation of what I was saying in the first scene that we looked at. I think a big part of the dynamic that these two have together is that Zach will keep going, adding on details. Because Brennan, like, I find this so funny because I'm like watching out for the smaller stuff, watching the faces that Brennan is making and the micro attempts that he's making to say something, to add in to the detail, or to just start talking. But it's funnier to let Zach, as his character, keep digging his hole further and further by adding in more specifics about what's going on. Because Brennan reacted really early.
And to pledge my fealty to you, I have slain many a foul beast.
Watch Brennan.
Many a geese running through.
There. It's so small. Again, blinking you would miss it, not know what you're looking for and you would miss it. But that, Zach will have still heard it. Zach will have still picked up on it, even if it's unconsciously at this point because of the degree of experience. But that is that hidden layer of improv communication. Brennan saying to Zach, improviser to improviser, okay, the geese thing. Hold that in mind. I've heard the geese thing. I've responded to it. My character has noticed it. Even if it's the tiniest registering of like a sound that is made, that's going to be what we play with. Framing, I've said in the past, it can be like saying, what? It can be repeating the thing back, but sometimes it can be as subliminal as that. That has framed it for Zach and for the audience. People that did hear that or, again, unconsciously picked up on it, that gives them an outlet. It gives them a little burst of that balloon that swelled up with the geese thing to respond, to release with a laugh.
I have slain many a foul beast, many a geese running through the fields of Inishire. The geese were absolutely out of control.
And Zach is, I didn't even pick up on that on the last go round. Zach has gone straight with that. I mean, maybe he would have had more uncertainty about whether to do that or not if Brennan hadn't responded to it and it hadn't given the audience an opportunity to laugh. But that's actually the very next thing that Zach starts saying, is just digging in more about the geese. The geese were out of control.
The geese were absolutely out of control.
And look at Brennan's face.
The geese were absolutely out of control.
And again?
Many fell to my blade. They have those long, slender necks, pretty easy to take out.
Yeah.
I didn't eat any of them. I don't like eating geese. It's sort of gamey. But enough about that. I'm here, and I will do whatever you want. I will kill whoever you want. I will slay whatever geese may run afoul of you. Pun intended. But enough
Oh no.
about that.
Okay, sorry. I just killed that.
Gamey. But enough about that. I'm here, and I will do whatever you want. I will kill whoever you want. I will slay whatever geese may run afoul of you. Pun intended. But enough about that. What were you saying?
Excuse me. Okay. Oh man. All right. In the UCB style of improv that Dropout largely focuses on in the improv players, this type of long form improv focuses on this repetition of what we call game of the scene. I talked about it a few minutes ago. But it's really like, it's like a little sketch. It's like part of a sketch show that's just written on the fly as the two people are going. And something that is really helpful when you're trying to establish a pattern. And because of this, you'll see it a lot in sketch shows. You'll see it with SNL characters. You'll see it with like the classic sort of like individual led or like comedy duo led sketch shows. So many of those characters will have catchphrases, and it's a little tag to show that game move has been played. So we had 2 hits of that game in that one chunk, and I was dying watching Brennan, like probably once or twice when he starts going, might have been him about to genuinely try and speak. Probably he realized that the funny like micro game there was that he was not getting to speak because the guy was the night was just going and going. But Zach was defining when one round of that game of like, I'm crazy geese night, basically, was complete by capping it off with, but enough about that. He uses that to reground, and he says, enough about that, here's some normal night stuff, right?
It's sort of gamey. But enough about that. I'm here, and I will do whatever you want. I will kill whoever you want.
So that sounds nighty, it sounds normal. It's, again, regrounding so that we have that contrast. That's the lull in the game pattern. And he's used but enough about that as the segue. But he does it again.
I will slay whatever geese may run afoul of you. Pun intended.
Ridiculous.
But enough about that.
Catchphrase.
What were you saying?
And again, delivered in his kind of like slightly bizarre, surreal way. But what were you saying? That is Zach regrounding again and again, having used but enough about that as the tagline for that. That's definitely coming back. I guarantee that that is coming back. That's my prediction here.
I didn't say shit, man. I didn't say shit. You keep saying enough about that, and frankly, Sir Bravos, I disagree that we've had enough about that. Yeah. How many geese did you kill?
Okay, great framing from Brennan. Brennan has said, you keep saying but enough about that, and I disagree. That is Brennan, again, in character, saying to Zach, I hear that pattern that you're giving. I confirm it. Please do that again.
Shit, man. I didn't say shit. You keep saying enough about that, and frankly, Sir Bravos, I disagree that we've had enough about that. Yeah. How many geese did you kill on the way to the castle?
60, 70,000.
So
there are no more geese in these lands, for I have taken them all out in your name. And I shouted,
in my name?
Lord Kilbington, I said, for Kilbington!
Oh, God damn it, there's an angry mob outside, you piece of shit.
It's fucked up what he did.
Peasants?
Yeah?
I'm handling it.
You're welcome. Oh, there he is.
Okay. Brennan is doing he has a little mini game of his own going on here. It's not the focus of the scene, but it's kind of, Brennan's character is quite out of character. You would expect the liege lord thing, and that's how he started off, even with just the single utterance of "Brr," or whatever it was at the start of the scene, in that archetype similar to that prior scene that we just checked out. But he is extremely casual, let's say. Now, if there's something that I think is kind of a through line with UCB style improvisers, I kind of said before, a sketch that's written on the fly really is the kind of go-to approach. To the extent where sometimes the emphasis really is in the writing. And sometimes the characterization can be a little bit on the side of that. And look, don't get me wrong, I've seen other stuff that Brennan has done. I think this is done brilliantly as well. This is not a critique of his ability to do characterization or whatever. I think this is something that's quite normal in this style of improv. But what's genius here is that he's turning that into his own thing. It's part of the comedy of Brennan's character.
I'm taking them all out in your name. And I shouted,
In my name?
He's saying like, I didn't say shit in my name. And when he addresses the peasants.
Lord Kilbington, I said. Fort Kilbington!
And this.
Oh, God damn it, there's an angry mob outside, you piece of
You piece of shit.
Stop what he did.
Peasants?
Yeah.
I'm handling it.
You're welcome. Oh, there he
God
is.
damn it.
You can often think when people are sort of early to mid into their improv journey and they're doing a lot of premise improv, which is what this is, which is what a UCB style Harold is. You've heard me mention that in a couple of videos. I guess at some point I'll get into what that is properly in a video. You can start to think that like, only the unusual character, only the person in Zach's position here gets to be funny. But it's just not true. If you make strong, specific choices about your own character as the receiver, the straight person, the voice of reason character, sorry, that if I look weird is because I've just cut out like 15 minutes of me trying to remember the word I was looking for. If you make strong choices about your character, and we've seen this in Very Important People with Vic Michaelis, they know who their character is, they can play that funny around the crazy stuff that's happening, because the spotlight is still on this unusual character, but the straight man, the voice of reason, yeah, they can fully do their own thing as well.
Yeah.
I'm handling it.
You're welcome. Oh, there he is.
God damn it.
but enough about that.
Why the
Stop saying about that.
It was really nice to see you do the heavy lifting.
So I actually just want to watch this whole scene back and get a sense of the whole flow of things. Now that we've checked out all of these little bits that we've pulled apart, let's see where Zach introduces the swan thing, where Brennan frames it literally with just his and then where Zach increases until he hits like a comedic peak where he can't easily just keep going. You get tired watching, right? So it won't be as funny if he keeps hammering at it. So he introduces the catchphrase, but enough about that to segue onto something else. A side note, he wouldn't probably be intending that as a catchphrase initially, but it got such a strong reaction from everyone that triggers a little thing in your brain. You go, I'll probably bring that back in again. So let's see him introduce the swans, Brennan frame it, introduce the catchphrase, and then repeat that cycle of quick build, enough about that. Quick build, enough about that.
Cern their liege lord.
Let's see the rhythm.
My lord, I have journeyed far to pledge my fealty to you.
No.
I have slain many a foul beast, many a geese running through.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I've just realized he's having a flash. Okay, this is something we talk about when starting scenes mostly. It's when you get a prompt, if you get given like a suggestion word, whatever, what is the first thing that flashes across? Like you have to learn to kind of listen to it. Like particularly a lot of improvisers are neurodivergent, right? And it's can be harder to be tuned in to what your own thoughts are, sort of. But you get used to having something flash across your brain and grabbing it and just running with that as the first thing. And I think that's what's just happened there. Zach has said foul beast, and then this little pun of a thing has happened in his brain, and he's gone, oh, geese. He said foul, and then he's gone, geese. I don't think he's teed that up as a pun. And I don't know, to be fair, if when he says pun intended later about something else, who knows whether that's teed up as a pun either. But that's what's happened. I'm pretty sure of that. That's what's happened.
My lord, I have journeyed far to pledge my fealty to you. I have slain many a foul beast, many a geese running through the fields of Inishire. The geese were absolutely out of control. Many fell to my blade. They have those long, slender necks, pretty easy to take out. I didn't eat any of them. I don't like eating geese. It's sort of gamey. But enough about that. I'm here, and I will do whatever you want. I will kill whoever you want. I will slay whatever geese may run afoul of you. Pun intended. But enough about that. What were you saying?
I didn't say shit, man. I didn't say shit. You keep saying enough about that, and frankly, Sir Bravus, I disagree that we've had enough about
Strong
that.
framing.
How many geese did you kill on the way to the castle?
60, 70,000?
So,
Big physical response from Brennan there, because he already responded big when he thought that Zach was saying 60, 70. Sometimes the only way to amp that up further is to like physically lose it, basically.
There are no more geese in these lands, for I have taken them all out in your name. And I shouted,
in my name?
Lord Kilbington, I said, for Kilbington!
Oh, God damn it, there's an angry mob outside, you piece of...
It's fucked up what he did.
Peasants?
Yeah?
I'm handling it.
You're welcome.
Oh, there he
God
is.
damn it.
But enough about that.
Stop saying enough about that.
It was really nice to see you do the heavy lifting in that scene, and Brennan just stand there.
I mean,
Brennan did some of the heavy lifting there too. He did so much framing. He did so much communicating as an improviser to Zach that we're on the same path together. I get what's happening, or maybe even pointing out because if he didn't point out the swans, would Zach have done that? He did the introduction of the peasants outside, which brought in a support move from Josh. Maybe we'll get into support moves in another video soon. That was beautiful. And I think what we've got here is two people that really have a lot of communication, because we have that ability to know essentially when one is going to be popping off and when the other is. And we've had scenes where one of them is monologuing, and we've had scenes where they're switching back and forward in the monologuing. It's quite a unique sort of way to do this. Pretty much all those scenes actually were not very like one line, but it was great to see. I loved that. Did you like that? What did you learn? What would you like to see more of? You can become a channel member now. We'll be doing part 2s and extended cuts of episodes. We'll be doing a lot of bonus content. There are different tiers for whether you want to be really in with the advanced previews of things and in with the live subscriber chat when a new video goes up. There is a tier for just giving a little bit of support to the channel, which is great. And everyone gets to join the Discord server, so come along. I also offer coaching here in London or on Zoom. And listen, until next time, keep laughing.